Hello, friends. I believe that we are live. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the first Thursday of November. Welcome to Crafters Northwest 3 on Thursday, where we make at least 3 cards every week. And I give you all of the sizes and dimensions and any helpful tips and tricks that you might like to have while you're making it. So, today's cards, we are only going to make one of each, but I wanted to show that they are super simple to be able to make multiples. So this is our first card, and I do have, oh no, I do have samples. I have sound coming from somewhere. One second. Okay. One of my strings came out. I will need to fix that. Anyway, I have 2 samples of the first card that we're going to make today, and this one is prompted by a couple of things. 1, I needed to make some guide cards. 2, I had a bunch of scraps from the Take to the Sky DSP pack. As a matter of fact, I just wanted to show you, like this is all I have left. I do have 12 by 12, no, I do have 12-inch pieces. Most of them are 1/2 inch or less, although this one is just ever so slightly larger. But yeah, most of them are much, much smaller. So I wanted to use some. So I found a card that gave me some inspiration, and so that is this first card. And man, it looks like I'm going to need to pull apart both of them to fix that. So I will show you how to not have to do that on yours. So we have some strips of paper that are fairly small, and I wanted to show you as well, I did something different with the envelopes. Right? Normally we cover the whole flap if we're going to put anything on here. I didn't have any stamping, and the papers, like this one especially, didn't really have any planes on it, so I didn't want to stamp an airplane on the flap. Well, I know this paper does, not all of them do. So I could have just gone with airplane. I decided to go a slightly different route. So this paper is 1.5 inches. This one is 1 5/8 by just over 4 1/4. Right, it was a little bit longer and I trimmed it off. And I just put it in and traced it, and then ended up cutting it not so great, but you know what? Nobody's gonna know. But I do like that you can see it. Let's see if I put some white back here, if that's easier. Yeah, you can see it all the way up. So I do like that. So let's go ahead and make it. So this is what we're going to use for this card. So we're going to use a pecan pie cardstock base, 4 1/4 by 11, smoky slate, 4 by 5 1/4, white also 4 by 5 1/4, and then our DSP pieces are 1 by 5 1/4 and 1/2 inch by 5 1/4. If you have anything extra, you can use it on the flap. Like I said, the one shown is 1 1/2. Okay, so let's do this, because this, my friends, is super simple. So we do have, again, a piece that is, I'm assuming 1.5. Yep. That just happened to be what was left, right? I didn't plan it that way. I trimmed this down, right? So that strip really was 1.5 inches before I cut anything else from it. So that was my scrap left over. So let's go ahead and do this first. And we could do the gray side. That would be super fun. It wouldn't necessarily go with the other colors per se. So we are going to go with that Mossy Meadow side. I am going to use the Tombow green glue for this. And even more than normal, I'm going to make sure that my glue goes all the way to the edges and is smoothed out really well. Okay, so we are going to let that dry. Now, I don't think you will believe how easy this card is going to be. Let's see. I have to have that right there in order for you to still see it. I apologize, but that means I have 0 room. So, if you didn't get it, go ahead and go back afterwards and get those measurements. But like I said, this one is so easy. So if you have a scrap that's 1.5 wide by 12 inches long, you can make this card. So easy. All right. So the white is for the inside as per normal. And we're going to put our 1-inch DSP piece up about 1/4 of an inch. Right, it may not be perfect. Good news is it doesn't have to be with this. And I know I didn't stamp yet. It's kind of on purpose, but you could stamp. All right, so we are stamping with basic gray ink the word celebrate, which comes from Iconic Imagery down here. Okay, 1 ink, 1 paper, 1 stamp set. Like normally my stuff isn't this easy. It's always easy. There's just lots of steps which make it seem not easy. Voila. Close that up. All right, give that a few seconds to dry. Let's go ahead and put our insides in. I think the browns and the greens definitely play well together, right? So if you wanted, you could make this be white instead of smoky slate. That would be super cute as well. All right, so we are going to use a tiny bit of seal. Okay, come on. So what I'm doing is I am overlapping where the DSP is onto the cardstock. So my seal goes about like this, about here. Okay. Then we are going to bring in, I did use the Baker's Twine Essentials pack on the first two cards. I did Fairy Vanilla and the Gray Granite, or whatever color that gray actually is. Excuse me. I'm actually wondering, maybe we do this green. Nope, it's too bright. All right. So we're going to use the Fairy Vanilla. We're going to go ahead and cut 3 pieces that are slightly too long. Could you just wrap it around 3 times? Yep. But that's not what I would like to do. Okay, so we are going to take our first one and we're going to lay it down right where the edge of that DSP is. I'm going to try to glue that a little bit better. Okay, so that's glued down. We're going to stay right along that top and then flip around to the back, keeping it tight as we go. We are going to, oh gosh, repeat that, but just below and just above. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So, on my sample cards, I did not do anything to the strings on the back. We are actually going to do something because, as we saw, they have all kind of come off. So, I am going to just grab some washi. That may not have been quite a long enough piece. Make sure that you don't go over the edge. It was not quite long enough, but that should work. And we are kind of double duty with the washi. So the washi itself, of course, is sticky, but we do have that seal there. So we have 2 layers of sticky, sandwiching the twine or thread or whatever it's technically called. Okay, and then we just need to pop up our whole thing. So, if you happen to just kind of come across me, you haven't seen my videos before, you will find that I use probably more than I actually need to, dimensional wise. And you can use what makes you happy. This is what works in my brain. So that is what we do. I saw a demonstrator doing this. It's probably been a couple years ago now. And I was just amazed at how well it worked and how easy it is. I love it. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if it was on my desk or what, I have a little bit of dried glue right there. And because it is this glue, it is a slight bit tacky. So I'm going to just use an eraser. And erase that off there. I did seem to wear it a little bit, so I'm just gonna go across the bottom of the rest of it and kind of make it all kind of the same amount of wear. Alright, now we just need to finish up our envelope. And we're done with card 1. How about that? So you can see that all of my samples are pretty much the same. I am going to have to pull these off and reseat them because I did not add that extra layer of protection. So that is card 1. Fun, right? Sorry, that was kind of loud. Alright, card 2. I have so many samples to show you because it just was so easy and so fun. I didn't want to stop. Okay. So these are so pretty, aren't they? These are the Regal Floral paper and some of the coordinating cardstock, which, if you are not familiar, on the backside of every paper pack, it lists the name, and these are actually Regal Winter. The stamp set is called Regal Floral. And it has the colors that are associated with it. So in this case, Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, Cherry Cobbler, Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, Shaded Spruce, and Wild Wheat. So I did not do those final two papers or colors, but we have the Night of Navy, Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, Cherry Cobbler, white, because I mean you can't go wrong with white, right? And we are going to make Pretty Peacock. So I did all of these cards, plus the pieces for the card we're going to make, plus the insides, right, our strip, plus all of the envelopes for 6 cards from one sheet of DSP. And I had some left over. I had it was between 1 1/8 and 1 1/4 strip, 12-inch strip, plus these pieces. Right, so I could get not quite a full extra card, doing the envelopes the same all the way across. But even still, that's not a ton of scraps left over. So if you wanted to make a set of cards, this would be an easy way to do it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, one thing I do want to show you, actually, before we get started, is the inside of some of these cards. So I do have all of my insides, except for my white, done but not put in, because I wanted to show you what I did here. So on the back of each card, let's start with one that you'll actually be able to see. So on this card, I know that I'm going to be putting this here, right? So that's going to be covered up. And I don't know how well it will pick up on camera, but I have 3 marks. And I would be surprised if you can actually see that mark on camera, because I can barely see it in person. Okay, but we have 3 marks, and they are from these 3 pens. So we have ivory, and then light and dark gray granite. Okay, so they're actually done in this order, and they're done in the same order on each card so that I can see. And the reason I did that is because I'm not sure if you can tell, but let's grab one of these. It's very faint on camera, so there is another layer of that cardstock. Maybe I should have popped it up. That's okay. So what I wanted to do was make it slightly darker, and I might decide to make the one we're doing slightly more darker. I had let them dry, but I don't think I let them dry quite enough. I believe that I actually did do this lightest one here, but I may have done that one. So I just wanted it to be a slight bit darker than what it actually was. So it didn't look like I was just putting cardstock on top of cardstock. But I don't think I had enough difference. And some of them, oh my gosh, like this one. I know it's there, but I can't even see it. So this one, it's hard to see anything except the darkest one. And I think I did the not darkest one. On the Night of Navy, again, after everything's dry, you can't hardly see any of them. I'm fairly certain I did do that darkest one, but I only did one layer of color. So maybe for this one I'll do 2 layers and I'll do the darkest one. So let me move my samples. Now you can barely see. Oh, it looks like you can actually see it better on camera than you can in person, which is funny. Definitely going to go with the dark for this color. All right, so it's kind of a lot of pieces, but that's okay. I promise it's still easy. So I have my white already pre-cut for our sentiment, okay? That's what this 3x2 is. It's a little bit large of a piece, but that's okay. All right, so we have our piece for our envelope. We have our card base, 5.5 by 8.5. We're going to go with all the same color. So we have 4 by 5.25, and then 2.5 by 5. For our white, we have 4 by 5.25 for the inside, 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 for the front, the white for our sentiment, and then we have 2 DSP pieces, the what do we say they were called? Regal Winter. 1/2 inch by 5.25, and this one is 1 1/8 by 5. Now I have a little star here because we are going to do some embossing on this piece, and you can see they are essentially the same size. I don't know if you can actually see, but this one is ever so slightly longer by a hair. But I do want to point out that, let's see, can you tell? Sometimes you can see that this piece becomes slightly shorter than this piece. And so you may want to decide after you get done embossing, you might want to trim a hair off of your DSP piece so they line up a little bit better. But I will leave that to you. And then we have some white ribbon from the white and pink combo set. All right, let's do our things here. Okay. So let's do our sentiment first so that it can dry. And we are using Thanks So Much. And this is actually a combination of 2 stamp sets, Sentimental Park for the thanks and Everyday Greetings for So Much. And we are going to again use some basic gray ink. Perfect. All right, that is going to dry. So we are going to do some embossing with the Distressed Tile 3D Embossing folder. And where you do it in the folder is completely up to you. I do have my machine just off camera. Okay, so that is what that ends up looking like. It has so much detail. Alright, and then before I forget, the sentiment piece comes from Greetings of the Season dies, which do coordinate with the everyday greetings, but is actually bundled with the Christmas greetings. Well, the season's one. Greetings of the Season. There we go. Alright, so we won't need this because we did great. Awesome, awesome. Alright. One more thing to do to this piece is we're going to trim off 1/2 inch. Easy peasy. Alright, so now I just want to see, and you can see it is ever so slightly more noticeable. So I am going to trim off a hair, just a hair. Bent it more than it cut it, although it did take off a layer, so I can see it easier to trim it. Okay, and then to give it time to dry, let's go ahead and grab our darkest pen. And we're going to use the brush end versus the bullet end, and we're going to hold it very, very parallel to the table. And like I said earlier, I am going to make it a little bit darker. So I am going to do 2 swipes instead of just one. And I'm very much getting the whole edge. So, you know, I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. You know, kind of like when we colored with the side of our crayons to cover a wide swath. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the inside so everything else can have a few moments to dry. And I will be using that Tombow green glue again, just because it's easy and it gives me time to wiggle my piece so that it can be perfectly aligned, or as perfectly as I can make it anyway. Alright, inside done. Let's do our envelope real quick. I moved it, so I managed to squish out some of that glue. So, of course. Okay, so we are going to first kind of clean up the edge, because the paper fibers get broken when you emboss your pieces. It tends to fray if you cut it afterwards. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, it just is what it is. So it's something that you need to be aware of. So when we cut our 1/2 inch off, which you don't have to cut it after, you could cut it before and emboss 2 pieces. I just want to make sure that those 2 pieces are going the same way, for lack of a better description. I don't want them to inadvertently move. Oh. Okay, let's try this. Alright, so I'm going to put them in the embossing folder. If these are the 2 pieces, right, when they're connected, obviously they can't move. But if I put one in and then put the other one in, and one of them skewers like that, right, when they're in, then the detail doesn't line up. Whereas if it's one piece, it's obviously going to line up because it can't not. Alright, so we did either edge so that we can, and it may not be perfect, and that's quite alright. I do want to turn the paper over. We are just going to center this between our pieces. And then we are going to center this onto that piece that we colored, right? You can see the darker edges there. And there's not a very large border on here. So okay. And then we're going to put that on here. So now you can see, even on camera, that it is a slightly different color, right? It's the same color, but it is ever so slightly different. Okay. give myself the hiccups again. Alright, well, I do want to pop this up. I do want to have these available as a set, and I want them to match. So, I'm not going to pop this up. Okay. Burnish on the back side so that we don't accidentally ruin the embossing. Okay, now our sentiment. And we actually also need a little bit of that white twine. So we are going to thread this through, and this piece is roughly 6 inches. It is too long, I will tell you that. So you do not have to pre-cut them. I just did in the process. Oh, that one is, oh, okay, way too long. So if you cut a piece that is 4 inches, that would probably be more than enough room. Before I trim it off though, I am going to tie a bow. Alright, so just like tying your shoes, except on a slightly smaller scale. If you hold the center as you're loosening, it helps everything stay small and not twisted. Okay. So these tails are probably a little bit too long, and that's okay. They can be trimmed as well. So we're just going to give that a haircut, and we'll give that a haircut. And that's where we're actually going to save this. We're going to use it on the next card. And we'll talk about that when we get there. We're not there quite yet. All right, some dimensionals. I do try to not use so many dimensionals, and I just can't. It went flying. I don't know where it went. That's fine. That's fine. Alright, bring this back in and put it at a bit of an angle. Just like that. Okay. Trim our envelope, and then we are done. So like I said, you can get 6 cards and envelopes from one sheet of DSP, and you will need 1 sheet of 8.5 by 11 per each single color. for this card. And then you will still have a little bit left over. But it'll be, what, 1.5 inches by 5? Depending on how you cut it. It'll be about 1.5 inches by 5. Maybe bigger on one end or the other, but not both. Yeah, so that is card number 2. So super fun, super easy. So you can see the pretty peacock here. We have the cherry cobbler. The berry burst is in these ones. Obviously the white. The wild wheat here. The blackberry bliss in here. I do think that gorged grape would match perfectly. If you wanted to, you could even sneak in some pool party. Maybe some granny apple green. No, probably more olive green would be my thinking without having any right here to pop up against it. So that is that, my friends. Not too shabby, right? Okay, now it's time for our Christmas card, right? One Christmas card a week until Christmas, I guess. I don't know what day of the week that one is, so. If 3 on Thursday falls on Christmas, there's not going to be a 3 on Thursday. That much I can tell you. Yes, I did Halloween. No, I'm not going to do Christmas. Alright, and this is our fun card. Isn't this so fun? It's so cute. You can easily change out the sentiment for any number of things. And this card would be perfect and ready for anything winter. Birthdays, miss you, thinking about you, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. You could even do Happy Thanksgiving. Like, you could do pretty much anything. And you could leave all of the papers the same, or if you changed out the real red, take a bow, whatever, DSP for a different color, you could, so many options. All right, what do we got here? We have a thick whisper white base, 4 1/4 by 11. We're going to fold it at the top here. Scraps for the die cutting. This larger piece, you're going to want something that is 4 by 2.5 at least, or approximately. And then whatever scraps you need for the other little pieces, which we will do that here shortly. All right. We have Country Woods DSP. That is that wood background back here. 3 3/4 by 5. I skipped over the black unintentionally and the inside. Let's go back to the white. So the scraps. Then you also need our inside, 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, black for our front, 4 by 5 1/4. Big shock there. Country Woods DSP. Again, that's that wood, 3 3/4 by 5. And then our Take a Bow DSP. We have 1.5 by 3 3/4. Your piece for the envelope, which, as you know, I tell you to measure your envelope flap first. Or you could just always cut a little bit larger, but it's always good to check. And then 1/2 inch by 4 for the inside. So, let's get started, shall we? Some of these pieces I do have pre-cut, others I do not. And I think I need a little bit more scraps, but because I didn't grab them. All right, let's move this out of the way, and let's do some stamping. What pieces do I have? So I have some leaves. I have the whipped cream. And I have the snowflake cut. Oh, and the straw. Okay, so those are pieces that I have already. These are leftover ribbons from the samples from the previous card, and this is the one that we cut off of the one we actually did on video. So, all right, we need to stamp this. We need to stamp a coffee cup. Nope, don't need the straw. Have the straw. Have the leaves and a snowflake. All right. So, the sets that we need for this, before I pull everything out again, we have Regal Flora for our leaf that we're doing. So we're doing the stamp and the die for that. One of a Kind for our sentiment and our snowflakes. The snowflake stamp and the snowflake die. And then More Than Autumn, of course, for our coffee and our whipped cream. And our straw. Okay. So like I said, some of this I have done, some I don't. Here we go. So we need to stamp this one. Oh, sorry, that was loud. We are using Memento black ink. Let's make sure that we're stamping nicely. Didn't pick up any cat hair or anything. Hope you have the merriest season ever. Okay. That piece is not done. We need to bring back in our basic gray. Gosh, I can't remember if this was second or third generation, so we're going to have to stamp and find out. 1, 2, 3. All right, third generation. So I'm going to set this kind of like this so I can grab it super easy. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay, so this little tag is done. Now we need to bring in some scraps. That one is not big enough, but that one is big enough. Okay. I think I need to re-ink my Memento. Perfect. And then our whipped cream. Let's see if we can do this. I don't think that's going to be lined up very well. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than I would like. Where's the other one? Right here. playing Jenga with my blocks. Okay, I don't think we need to stamp anything else. I'm going to take a little bit of washi, and nope, there's already washi on the coffee cup. Fabulous, and cut this out right quick. Voila. I should have colored it first, but you know what? It's too late for that. Alright, so while that is drying, let's go ahead and put some of these pieces together, shall we? Of course, now is when it decides it wants to clog up. Envelope is ready to sit inside. One of these times I'm going to squeeze it and it's just going to say, ha ha. We are almost done for the day, guys. We just hit 1 hour. Technically, I have 1 more minute still, because I was 1 minute late. Not that I'm going to be done in 1 minute, but just saying. That is not going to. Oh. So we're just going to line this up at the bottom. And yes, you could just cut them so they don't overlap. But this is a little bit easier. Alright, so we have those scraps. So these are those pieces of ribbon that I tell you to save that you normally wouldn't because they're really too short to do much of anything with, which I get, I do. But we are going to use them. So we want to grab our glue dots. Oh no. Of course. Okay. Should still be sticky enough. And we're going to put these glue dots, one at each end of our tiny pieces of ribbon. So they could be half this size, honestly. And we're just going to stick it on where it overlaps and then wrap around to the back side. We are going to repeat that. Your glue dots will come off easier if you warm them up a smidge with your fingertips. Right, because I'm sure that you've had happen, if you haven't, I have, where you go to pull off your ribbon or your paper or whatever, and the glue dot just stays on the roll. And you're like, no, that's not what I need. I get it. I do get it. But if you heat them up just that little bit with your fingertips, they come off a lot easier. Alright. Now we are centering this piece on our black, which I know is hard to see on camera because my table is also black. Okay. Easy peasy so far. Putting this layer onto our card base. Right, just centering that on there. Easy peasy. We're almost done with this card. So easy. So easy. Alright, we need some dimensionals. Okay. And we're going to put this so it overlaps those ribbons, and now you can see why it didn't need to have a ton of them. So I'm going to put this approximately 1/3. The ribbon is approximately 1/3 up our shape. Alright, so we need some coloring. And then these are our leaves. And our snowflake. Oh, can't forget the straw. Okay, so these are the colors that I used. So we have light gray granite, light pool party, bronze, and color lifter. sorry, you couldn't see those. Gray granite, pool party, light pool, okay, rewind. Light gray granite, light pool party, bronze, ink, lifter, color lifter. Goodness. Alright, let's start with super easy. Light pool party. And we're just adding a little bit of ink on the bottom half of the stripes. So I'm not coloring a whole stripe, just half of a stripe. So I'm just following the stamp lines. Alright, done with that color. Next, we have our light gray granite. And for this one, we're going to go in and add just some shadows. That was thicker than I wanted. Here and there to give some dimension. It kind of looks like a face right there. That's funny. Unintentional. Alright, so just to give a little bit of dimension to our whipped cream. Okay, that is done. Now we are going to take our coffee cup and we're just going to flick. We're gonna start at the edge and just flick. Trying to keep a light hand. It does work better with the brush end for this technique. And you can have space between. That totally works in your favor on how we want it to look. Alright, then depending on your look, I bring back in the sample here. I did the same process with the same marker and then, this marker, and then I went over it with the color lifter. So you don't have to. You can leave it just like that. Okay? And it would still look good. We're just going to take the color lifter and literally just pull. Start at the edge and pull in. And you don't have to be as light. You can use broader strokes with it if you'd like. Okay, so this one, this is the bronze. So we're using this for the coffee cozy. So what we are going to do first, we're using the brush end. We're going to come in and we're going to flick, but we're doing more solid lines. And then we're going to turn it and we're going to come from the other side, but we're going to leave some white space between. Okay, we don't want these to overlap. Okay, looks kind of crummy. I know, right? But that's our first layer. Now we're going to come in and we're going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to be much more controlled, right? Already we went more controlled going to the brown, and now we're going to go more controlled on the next level. And we're going to start on one edge, and we're going to go all the way across, but we're going to have almost no ink once we get across. Right, so we're going to kind of do this, and then we're going to go back across. So we're going to overlap. Hopefully, I know my words didn't make sense, but hopefully with seeing what I did makes sense. And yes, you can still see where that white kind of was. Some places a little bit more than other places, but that's okay because that is giving the look that our cup is round and not just flat. right? It's okay. It's okay, I promise. All right, so let's go ahead and add one dimensional to the bottom corner. Okay. That puts our cup and our layer at almost the same level. It does have that ribbon underneath it, and I didn't adjust for dimensionals. So, all right, we need to add our whipped cream. So we're going to add just a nice thin layer and put our whipped cream on top. Okay. We will add a dot of glue. Okay, maybe 2 dots. Behind our straw. And then we're just going to pick that up, kind of wherever we want it to be. Okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, before we go further, I am going to, oh, this paper is this is the first time I'm actually using it. This is the Berry Burst Old Olive and White Glimmer Specialty Paper. Super glimmery, and nothing came off. So, there's a couple, but not bad. Not bad at all. Qualifies and then nothing comes off. Okay, I'm just adding tiny little dots of glue. I know you can't see them. I don't think there's any way you could. That's okay. Okay, now we are just going to kind of futz and see what we like and kind of where we like it. Futzing would have been better before I put the glue on it, but that's okay. Alright, so that's kind of where I want my leaves. So I'm just going to flip everything upside down. Right? It's nice and neat. And I can just grab some washi tape, grab some regular office desk tape, and I can just doop doop doop, and they are attached. Right? That makes that so easy. Okay, I think I'm going to put a second layer of dimensional here. Much better. Perfect. So now, just to add a little bit of space between the top of the whipped cream and the label below, I am going to use a glue dot, because a glue dot is going to have more dimension than some spots of green glue. So we're just going to add a little bit here and a little bit here and some there. Pop off that dimensional. want to be able to see the ribbon and the sentiment, right? Otherwise it's kind of silly to put the ribbon on that side. All right, so our glue over here is a slight bit tacky, which is fabulous, makes it easier to add on here. I'm going to put it right about here. And then I'll look at that. So awesome. All right, let's cut off the edges of our envelope. And then we will be done, friends. I do love seeing your creations, so keep sharing, pretty please. It's so awesome to see my friends make some beautiful cards, whether they match mine or don't. You know, take mine as inspiration and then do what makes your heart happy. You never have to do it the exact same way I do. Alright, so that is card 3. Oh gosh. Here we have card 1. Try to put everything in the screen at one time. It's a little bit harder when I'm super close in like this. This guy and this guy. Alright. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch me. Whether you're here with me live or if you're watching on the replay, I would love to have a thumbs up. Where are my thumbs? My husband's favorite line. So thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. I really do appreciate all of those things that you do. It shows YouTube that it is fun content to watch and that they should suggest it to other people. So I do so much appreciate you supporting my small business by doing those few little things. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and I will see you all next week. Have a great one.